Okay, good evening, everybody. I understand that I'm jumping on a bit of a bandwagon here, but I'm going to do a Stitch With Me video tonight. The setup is not the best. I'm hoping to have better in the future, but a couple things affected this. The first was that my husband is home tonight. So I was going to set up in our bedroom, but he is in there gaming with some friends and cussing a lot, so I didn't want that on our video. The second, well, I guess that's really it, because I was going to record this tomorrow night in there, and I was going to try and hook my iPad into the wall and over my shoulder, but I had started stitching on this tonight and realized that I'm going to be doing a bulk of the same stitch, and it'd be easier to do a Stitch With Me video while I'm not in like a confetti area, so I don't mess up, because picking out a Heaven and Earth design is quite a bit harder than a normal cross stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I know my hand's going to kind of be in your way. I am a two-handed stitcher, at least for the most part. There are times when I use only one hand, but when I have the ability, I like to stitch two-handed. My dominant hand is on the bottom, and my non-dominant is on the top, because my dominant hand can find the hole pretty readily, whereas my non-dominant hand, I need to be able to see where I'm sticking it. I'm sure I could do it the other way, because I tend to be slightly ambidextrous, but it's a lot slower. And when you have so many stitches to get through, I mean, a Heaven and Earth design takes long enough. I could only imagine if you stitched any slower than you typically do. Right now, I am working on Krynic, and it's a little more difficult because it's thicker than my other, the normal normal DMC floss. You could probably hear my husband in the other room yelling. Sorry about that. But I'll go ahead and record this, and then if it's too much, I will stop and try this another time. I don't really have a set time. I don't want it to run too long. I wanted to do a little stitching with everybody. This is, as I've stated, a Heaven and Earth design. It is Mini Treasure Hunt Bookshelf by Amy Stewart. A while back, in 2015, I was just really starting to get into counted cross stitch heavy, because before that I did stamped cross stitching. I didn't know about this world that we have created for ourselves until 2015. I went in the wrong hole. So there was a there was a stitch along starting on Cross Stitch and Discuss number 2. And December 1st, everybody was going to start a Heaven and Earth design. I did not know what a Heaven and Earth design was, so I went and looked it up. And I realized what a daunting task this was going to be. And I said, if I'm going to take that long to stitch something, firstly, I'm going to be stitching it for myself. It's not going to be something I stitch for somebody else. Second, I want it to be something that I'm never going to get tired of, that represents myself, and that I just absolutely love. And I wanted something with at least a few colors in it. I didn't want to do something that was just, I saw in a video earlier today, the Bothy Threads Alice in Wonderland, where it's all black and on, really pretty background fabric. I think those are really nice. but my patience for only having one color, just not sure it exists. So I looked for a while, and I believe the first one I saw was the World Travel Bookshelf, and I thought that was awesome. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on back here. Okay. I really like the World Travel Bookshelf, but because I've always been a big reader. In the last couple years since I've discovered cross stitching, I have not been reading as much as I used to. My focus and attention just isn't there. I can listen to a book, but I'm having a hard time just staying still long enough to read. And I always feel like I could be getting more done if I weren't reading. So I haven't been reading too much lately, but books have always been a major part of my life. And it's part of the reason I considered doing Giant Harry Potter. There's a few other books that were such an impact on my life. I kind of wish there was a pattern out there for them. Okay. So when I saw the bookshelf, I thought that really fits me. But the world travel part of it, as awesome as I thought that was, I've never actually traveled. I mean, not anywhere special. I've barely been out of the state of Texas. I've been to Disney World twice, and that's about the extent of my exciting travels. I've been to Mexico once. It was just a visit in the evening. We came back home the same day because we were living just a few hours from the border. I've never been to Canada. I've never been overseas. So I just kind of felt like the World Travel Bookshelf wouldn't fit me very well because I've never actually traveled. When I found the Treasure Hunt Bookshelf, I knew that it was exactly for me because a lot of the books I like, aka, or please refer back to my mention of Harry Potter a few minutes ago, are based in fantastical worlds. Whether it's pure fantasy in the fact of witches and wizards and yada yada, or even fantasy or fantastical in the fact that it's a dystopian world. It's a world that doesn't exist in our time currently. And those are probably 90% of the books I read. So when the World Travel Bookshelf you can't see anything yet. You can just see the scroll here in this tree. But there's like a unicorn and so many elements going on that give that, they just stepped out of their book onto the bookshelf and they're spending the evening with the books. So I said, I have got to have that one. This kind of gets so thick it gets a little difficult to see the holes. So I bought it. I bought the digital pattern. I didn't buy the hard copy. Bought the digital pattern. Purchased some 18 count Aida at just a local Joann's because I was very anxious to get started. Plus, like I said, I was starting it for a stitch along that Cross Stitch and Discuss number 2 was doing, and I wanted to be able to join right in and be ready. So I just bought some over-the-counter 18 count Aida. I do believe it was off-white. Bought all my threads, got everything ready, and joined in December 1st. Then I got, I would say, a good portion done like this, and a lot went on. We moved, I don't remember what I was doing. we moved and it just got put by the wayside. Well, it came out of the bag that it was in and some kid spilled something all over it. Looked like probably a soda. And I was like, there is no way. On top of the fact that in choosing 18 count, because it's what I was comfortable with, I was in for a really, really big piece. And I was not quite prepared for that really big piece. So when I reordered fabric, I decided to go with 25 count because that's what they recommend. And I started it over. And I also didn't choose white because I felt like something with some color would be a little easier to see, especially in these lighter areas. And I know it's like really bright because of my light, but I was kind of hoping the Kreinik would show up a little bit better. But anyways, it's real sparkly through here. So I gotta remember what I was saying. I'm really bad about stuff like that. Oh, so I decided I didn't want to go with white. And I was on 1, 2, 3 stitch, picking out 25 count. And I thought, this pink is nice and subtle. I mean, it's not like you're actually going to see any of the fabric anyway, right? It's a full coverage design. So I picked this nice pink. And it's nice on my eyes when I'm working. And it's contrasty enough to pretty much everything in here that has a bulk amount. There are some pinks that probably fit perfectly, but they're in the middle of everything else. So, I pet my patterns a lot, or my stitching. So, I went with it. And when I first started back on this, there's something going on back here. What? Okay, I'm going to have to flip this over, and I'm not happy about that, because I'm going to have to move, and y'all are going to have to see things. Anyway, I started on it, and I dove head first into it. I was working on it every night. I really hope that was a cough and not puke. My son. Oh, there's a knot. That's why. Okay. There we go. All better. So, I dove headfirst into it. I was working on it every night. Ooh, look, that did blind y'all for a minute, didn't it? I'm sorry. Tis the season for croupy coughs. I was working on it every night. I got through a good, I would say like this much. And I was doing the parking method. Who knew I was gonna make this entire video about this one project? Ooh. So anyway, I was working on it every night. I was finishing, a block or 3 every night. And then, one moment. My son woke up, or he's sleepwalking. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So, oh, he's getting a drink of water. I killed myself out on it because it's so confetti heavy, and when you have a lot of different colors, and I was doing 2/1, and so it would get really thick, and it gets so hard to push my needle through that I was wearing band-aids around my fingers just to be able to push on the needle without stabbing into myself. And then I was parking and I would do a block and then I would park below it, and then I come over here and I do a block and I park below it, and I go all the way across, and then we had all these threads hanging down. I know this is the common way that people do it, but it was getting to be too much for me. And if I had miscounted and stuck it in the wrong hole, you know, there's no way to like label each of these colors. So it was becoming very daunting. So I put it down and I moved on to a different project for a while. And then a project after that, and a project after that. I continued to do so. Finally, I did bring it back. It was actually a video by Jessie Marie where she showed how she does her heaven and earth designs. And I went, I'm going to try that. I'm going to see if that makes it just a little bit easier, makes me want to stick with it. The problem is where I was at, I already had all these threads parked, and I wanted to change to this like diagonal thing I'm doing now, and it wasn't feasible. So what I did was I went ahead and I finished out the page, doing it the way that I had done it. But the big change I made is this up here, and you probably can't even tell looking on the camera, maybe. It's 2/1, and then right about in here, I changed to 1/1. And I can tell because I'm this close looking at it, but from far away, you're not going to be able to tell that I changed from 2/1 to 1/1. And that made it so much easier and cleaner, really, because I wasn't getting all this bulk that I was trying to fight through. And then once I started page 2 over here, I started the diagonal system, and it is working really well for me. I'm switching to one-handed because my back's starting to hurt from sitting like this. So I have to give my arm a break. I'm still getting used to having a frame. I used to just put this on a Q-snap, which, I mean, yes, it's on a Q-snap now, but on a smaller Q-snap, and just hold it in hand. And that's something else that changed for me a lot too, was once I didn't have to hold it anymore, made it a lot easier for me because I was trying to keep all this stuff out of the way. I'd have to set it down every time I needed to go and change a color and pick it back up, and it was a lot of work. And I knew going into this heaven and earth design was going to be a lot of work, but I was making it harder on myself, you know? So now I'm getting into a system. This set right here, from here to the top, and not including the square I'm working on now, but the one right next to it, it's 1,000 stitches. And that only took me like 2 weeks to do. Granted, I only work on it 1 to 2 nights a week. So that's not bad, I don't think. Because I don't take all this, because I mean, I have to have my Q-snap and my stand, the DMC stuff, and this whole big box of threads, plus my iPad that has the pattern on it. It's too much. I'm not going to take it to work and risk it getting ruined. So I only work on it on my days off. For a little while, I had like 4 days off a week, and I got a lot of stitching done. But now I only have 2 days off a week. So, and when you have to catch up, when your husband's home 4 days a week, but you're not, there's a lot of mess that gets made that I have to keep up with on my days off. So I try, as soon as I get up, I start cleaning and doing stuff around the house, and then that way when the kids go to bed, I can just sit down and stitch. And because I work nights, on my nights off, I tend to stay up all night and sleep all day. Even, I just keep my schedule. And that means I have from about 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. to stitch because my kids are asleep. No, I do not usually stitch that entire time. I wish I did, but that's my free time. And then I sleep until 3:30 in the afternoon. Kids get home at 4. And I clean and I cook and I spend time with the kids. And then I do it all over again. So I don't always stay up until I have to get them up for school. I usually end up crashing around 3 or 4 in the morning. Then I have to get up at 7, get the kids to school, and then go back to sleep. So that's just a little bit about my day. And why I started a Heaven and Earth design. Now, I will tell you, they say love is pain. And I have to agree. And when they say that, they were talking about Kreinik. I absolutely love what Kreinik does. Can I get my face in there? Oh, that's horrible. I should not do that. Okay. I love what Kreinik does for the pattern. It's so sparkly and so beautiful that, but man, it's horrible to work with. It's so hard to thread on a needle. See, it's already bulking up. It's making it hard to get my needle through. And just, it's hard to thread. The sound, this sound, can you hear this? I don't know if you can hear that, but if you can, oh my goodness. It sounds like I'm tearing my project up. Oh, that's another thing about this project. I don't know what happened. I'm pretty sure a seam ripper was involved, but I got a cut in my fabric. And unfortunately, I was way too far in to start all over again. That was not gonna happen. My needle does not even want to go through. Hold on. Am I in the shot again? Look at me. Now I'm moving the camera. I'm a mess, y'all. Just a mess. Okay. So and it was in a place where I was not going to be able to, like, it wasn't out here. It was in a place where I was going to have to deal with it. And I did. And looking up close right now while I'm here trying to get this Kreinik to go through the damn, fabric, I can see it. Not the hole. I got the hole covered up. Luckily, it was in an area that needed Kreinik, so Kreinik gives it a pretty good filler. And it attaches one piece to another piece fairly well. But I can tell where it's a little bulky and a little fuzzy, and that's where the hole was. But at least I was able to keep going. I didn't have to scrap it because I'm really afraid that if I scrap this again, I will never restart it. And I love it so much that would break my heart. I just want it all done and on my wall. And I'm a process stitcher, not a product stitcher for the most part. I mean, who doesn't love the product? But I don't mind that this is going to take me a really long time to do. I don't mind that I'm continuously having to work on it and seeing such little result because I just enjoy stitching. And I will continue on. Now, because of the confetti of this piece, my hand is in the way. I will have a better setup next time. I won't be shaking y'all every time I move. But I wanted to do this. You live and learn, right? Forgot what I was saying. Oh, because this is so confetti heavy at times, I didn't feel like I could monogamously work on the 7 in art design. And I don't mean monogamously in the fact that I will not stitch on anything else. I meant it would be my only hate. And I didn't feel like that was feasible or something I could do. So I started a second Heaven in Art Design for Stitch Mania. And if you've watched my videos before, you know this story. But in case you're new here, I'll tell it again. My other Heaven in Art Design is Mini Phantom of the Masquerade. And it has large bulks of the same color. Because it's like a red background with a black and white cat on it. I mean, there are other colors in there. And of course, there's shading of, there's still 89 colors, okay? Despite it not having the colorfulness of this, there's still 89 colors. But there are big batches where I'm doing the same color, kind of like I am right now with this Kreinik, whatever. And I have a piece that just keeps coming, whatever. So I switch back and forth between the two. Right now, my rotation, I started out with a rotation of my days off this week will be this project, my days off next week will be the next project. But then there were weeks that I couldn't work on it, and I didn't feel right switching them, so it's not like I could like list a calendar which one was which. I just switched them whenever I was done with one. So then I was like, that's not really working for me, because especially last week, I had 3 days off. So not last week. I didn't work on anything last week. The week before, Thanksgiving week, I had 3 days off. So my other Heaven in Art Design got a lot of work, and I ended up getting that 1,000 stitches done in 1 week. This one goes a little slower, and I only have 2 days off this week, plus I'm making extra videos. So it's not going to see as much work. So I decided that I would put 1,000 stitches in before I switched. So this one's going to get a couple weeks, and then my other one will get like a week. And then this one will get like a month. Do you see what I'm saying? But I felt like 500 just wasn't enough progress. But a whole page would take too long, especially when I'm on this one, and then when I'd switch back to the other one, it wouldn't take as long. So right now we're doing 1,000 stitches. We are at almost 30 minutes, but I'm almost to the end of this 100 square block. So we're just going to finish it, and then I will let y'all go. I have been considering a Stitch With Me video for a long time. I've also considered maybe doing kind of an explanation on how I work ahead, because everyone's different, and sometimes when you hear somebody talk about how they do it, you learn something that you're like, hey, if I try that and incorporate it into what I'm already doing, I bet I could improve just a little bit more. And who is so perfect that they don't need to improve a little bit? Not me. I could use all the help I can get. So anyways, I thought I would make one of those. Maybe tomorrow. I might make it tomorrow. I won't post it for a little while, but I'm thinking about making it tomorrow. If I can figure out how to make this setup a little bit better, because that is not going to work. But anyways, and I've always enjoyed Stitch With Me videos. I love listening to somebody talk while I I'm working on my own thing. I mean, that's how I watch most Flosstube videos. I just glance up if y'all go, ooh, let me show you this. But, I don't know. There's something different. Excuse me. There's something different about when you look up and you see that that person is doing exactly what you're doing. Not the exact same project, just the same up and down and in and out. So, since Off the Grid Needle Arts, Carolyn started Stitch With Me on Fridays, and Stitcherista has hers every week. I don't know that she posts hers the same day every week. I hadn't noticed. I just watch it whenever I find it. So I had started saving Danielle's Stitcheristas for whenever Caroline's would come on, and then I would, because I stitch at work, and I'm there for 12 hours. So, like, I would watch Danielle's Stitch With Me video, and then move on to Caroline's. Well, now Ginger Gerald Stitcher, and Bendy Stitchy, and Letitia the Crafty Curator. I think that's her YouTube name. Anyways, they're all doing it on the weekends, which is great because I always work the weekends, and I can just go from one to the next to the next. If I wait till Monday, I can do them all in a row, take up a good chunk of my night, and get a bunch of stitching done. So, since everybody was doing it, I figured now's as good a time as any. I'll just join along with everybody else. And there's sometimes I'm the type of person that I don't want to offend people. I don't want to break Flosstube etiquette, right? So I try not to copy other stitchers or other Flosstubers too much. I mean, we all do, and I think it should be a compliment to the Flosstuber you're copying, because it means that whatever they did meant enough to you for you to do it too. But I try not to do too much of it. I'm trying to, create my own thing and my own brand and whatever. So try not to do too much copying, but every once in a while, you gotta jump on the bandwagon. And really, like, these Stitch With Me videos, it's almost like we're doing a Stitch With Me stitch along. Everybody's joining in. Everybody's doing one. Maybe that's what it should be. It's a Stitch With Me stitch along. So SWASAL. Swasal. Oh, that's an interesting thought. Excuse me for 1 second. I need my drink. I, while jumping on the bandwagon, will not be doing this every week. I admire you that can, but I don't want to do the stitch along or the Stitch With Me while I'm at work. The setup would be way too hard. And then, I have trucks come in randomly. I have guys walk up to my shack. I cannot imagine being like, I'm just sitting here talking to myself. So it will not be weekly. I'm aiming for maybe once a month, right? Not too much, not too little. And I'll probably always be working on a Heaven and Earth design since I'll be doing them here at home. If you want me to stitch something else, be sure to leave me a comment. It's not like I don't have a dozen projects in the works. I think I currently have 16. I'll be going over that more next week. So I will not be putting out a weekly video this week. I've been way too distracted lately. I've barely stitched in the last week. And I just put out a 2-hour video about my bullet journal, or about my Happy Planner journal. So that took me several nights to work on, so that was several nights taken away from my stitching because research and stuff. So I'm not going to do a weekly. Tomorrow I will be doing the Christmas tag, but instead of doing it during this video, which obviously I had plenty to talk about, but I'm going to include my kids. My kids are going to do the Christmas tag with me. So, one second. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm just going to park this thread over here. I do not take Kreinik off the needle because trying to put that thing back on when it's all, you'll see how bad it's like frayed. Yeah, so I'm not unthreading that. That's why I have like several needles attached to this project because they all have a piece of Kreinik on them. So anyways, I'll be putting this one up tonight and then going back to work on this for a bit. I'll be doing that tag tomorrow. I also need to do my Year of Whips video, my end of year wrap up. Like I said, I'm really considering doing a How I Stitch a Heaven and Earth design. So y'all have a lot to look forward to throughout the rest of this holiday season. And hopefully stick with that and find ways to keep coming back to y'all next year. More than just a weekly update, because I feel like that's just so 90s now. Just kidding. Okay. So I hope y'all enjoyed this, and I will see y'all next time. Happy stitching.